Hey guys, this is Mr. Oxy coming at you live from West Palm Beach in Florida. I want to talk a little bit about Oxy today, your favorite topic and mine, and Oxy, the stock that just can't what? Well, it can't get any traction, can't get going, doesn't want to give us any growth. When the market goes down, Oxy goes down 5-6%. When the market goes up, Oxy goes up 0.5% or something. So I thought what I'd do is let's take a look at some of your comments, some of my replies, and see if we can make some kind of daylight, get some kind of daylight in terms of where Oxy is going and what we're doing next. So the first guy I want to highlight is my friend Vince Gupta, one of the subscribers. And Vince, thank you for writing. Thank you for your kind words. Vince asked me a lot of questions. I thought I'd summarize them here in a little block. But basically, Vince is asking me about the colder weather coming up. There could be a greater demand for natural gas for heating, for instance. He asked me about COVID-19. Made reference to the fact that there's no improvement in flight capacity right now, and effectively there's no therefore less demand for fuel. He also made reference to electric vehicles and the impact that they would have on fossil fuels in general. So I thought I'll just summarize it and maybe answer all of those questions at the same time. The first thing I want to address is the Asian spot prices for liquid natural gas or liquefied natural gas has just spiked to its highest level in more than 11 months. And the reason why this has happened is because there are expectations of an anticipated cold winter that will stoke demand for the fuel that is used in heating. Of course, this is Asian spot prices that I'm referring to. Asia is a massive area if you include all the Asian countries, but this is also true for the Scandinavian countries and most of the countries in the Northern Hemisphere, including, for instance, Canada. Despite its small population, Canadians pay a lot of money for liquefied natural gas, and that's one of my long positions. Enbridge in Canada is the recipient of those monthly checks that Canadian write for their heating of their homes. The average liquefied natural gas price for December delivery was $5.80 per million British thermal units, or MMBTU, and for November it was $5.70, up about 20 cents from just last week. So Vince, the other questions that you had asked about COVID-19, I'm going to kind of cop out on that one. I'm just going to say I have no comment on COVID right now because I'm not a politician. So I'll leave the COVID fight for the politicians. But I do want to talk a little bit about your concern about the flight capacity. So this is just an example or general or macro comment about industries that are being devastated by coronavirus. Two of the small businesses that we are invested in for different reasons. One is philanthropic and the other one is for profit. MTC Leathers is a company of ours that we have a majority ownership in that manages vintage leather bags, that manufactures vintage leather bags. These bags are effectively handmade, full-grain leather bags. They look really cool. We made satchels or briefcases, laptop bags, messenger bags, etc. that kind of are a throwback to the 50s, 60s, 70s. Classy stuff, handmade with full-grain leather with brass hardware on them. But we had to change, right? Because we effectively have not been doing any business since March of 2020. So it's about 6 months with almost zero revenue. So what we did was we put our heads down and we made the same product, but we adapted it just a little in order for us to be able to sell concealed carry cases. Why? There's an upcoming election. There's a lot of fear in the marketplace. People are buying guns as if it's going out of fashion in the United States. There's a shortage on ammo. They have to carry it into something, so our vintage leather bags effectively just evolved into concealed carry cases, and we're back in business. So we have to evolve. The airline's going to have to evolve as well. How about my non-profit corporation? The non-profit primarily focused on urban revitalization type of projects. We switched that completely to doing tech and jobs today, in fact, one of our new technology apps is called Zero Hunger. You can look at Zero Hunger. You'll find it on Google Play, and you can download it. The objective of the app, if you're using an Android phone, you can download it on Google Play, but the objective of the app is to connect people who are in need to food, hygiene services, healthcare services. If they're homeless, they can get help, etc., regardless of where they might be, because using Google's geo-tracking, we know the location of the phone. So if you click on the app and you say, I need food, it'll connect you to your closest source of food. So it's one of our new technology applications that we've just created. And the jobs relate to artisan jobs, including the people who make our leather bags for us. So we just flipped completely and evolved and changed. I think change is a good thing. I'm not at all happy with the devastation that has been brought about by the coronavirus, but we have to adapt, otherwise we die. So I'm just giving you two examples from a personal point of view of how we make changes in order to adapt. How about electric vehicles? Well, the fact of the matter is the electric vehicle market share right now represents about 2%, which is a tiny fraction of all cars manufactured. Now, the bottom line on electric vehicles is that today you are burning more fossil fuels to make one electric vehicle than what that vehicle will save on fossil fuels in the lifetime of the vehicle. So that's just a matter of fact. So today, if you're driving a Tesla, all strength to you. I love Tesla as well. I think it's a really cool car. But at the end of the day, you got to know that you might be saving on fossil fuel in terms of not having to fill up at the pump. But in the first place, you're still charging the car, which uses electricity. And in the second place, your car costs a lot more in fossil fuels to manufacture than any other mass-produced car on the road, like a Ford or a Chevy or a Chrysler or whatever the case might be. So, Vince, those are my comments to some of the questions that you asked. I got a message from Adi Shemla. So Adi writes and says, hey, what are your thoughts on Miss Vicki's latest statements? He's referring to Vicki Hollub, the CEO of Occidental. It seems to be affecting the stock price significantly. I can't understand why she will state that. Well, what did she say? So here's my response, which is actually the quote from Vicki. She's saying, and by the way, this is from Bloomberg, so Kevin Crowley reported this on October 14th. Oxy's CEO says oil production will never see pre-pandemic levels. We will never reach the record of 13 million barrels per day, which was set earlier this year before the pandemic devastated global demand. It's just going to be too difficult to replace the 2 million barrels per day of production lost. Prior to COVID-19, the United States had become the world's top crude producer. The United States is still there or thereabout in terms of production. And President Trump called this the American energy dominance. The United States actually overtook both Saudi Arabia and Russia in terms of oil or crude production. Ms. Hollub sees strong long-term demand, though, and she says, I expect we'll get to peak supply before we get to peak demand. So my answer to Adi is that, regrettably, this is a statement from Vicki Hollub, but at the end of the day, she's just stating fact. So I can't really fault her. Many people know this to be true. She's probably just saying mostly what the majority of people already know. And then I have this cool message from Yi Di Zhang. He wrote and he said, hey, Mr. Oxy, here's an exciting article about Oxy. It's actually from Seeking Alpha. The title of the article is Occidental Petroleum Capitalizing on the Carbon Capture Craze. Of course, I was going to look at that, and Yidi said, would you consider talking about it in your future videos? I'm just going to talk about the highlights reel. So the article capitalizing on carbon capture craze is from Fluids Doc, the daily drilling report. It was published on October 18th, so it's just a couple of days old. And they highlight and say that Oxy is not just an oil and gas company anymore. In fact, leveraging decades of experience in managing CO2 into new business ventures with a capital-light approach and with some joint venture partners. We know some of these joint venture partners. They include a company out of Canada called Carbon Engineering, and some of the joint venture partners in that particular initiative include the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Chevron, Occidental, etc. We think Oxy can be bought at present levels by risk-tolerant investors for future growth and income. So that's kind of the highlights reel from this article. If you want to look it up, as I said, it's on Seeking Alpha under Fluid Stock, which is the author of the article. Thanks for sharing that, Yeti. I like good news because I'm an eternal optimist. So let's take a look at what Vicki Hollub, the CEO, says about OXY's low carbon ventures. We formed OXY Low Carbon Ventures because we needed a way to reduce our cost in EOR operations. If you have not looked at that before, take a look at OXY's website, Google EOR, or search in the little box for EOR. It stands for Enhanced Oil Recovery. In the event of our conventional EOR operations, the biggest driver, or one of the two largest drivers of our cost there, is CO2 and electricity. If you had followed my conversation with the Occidental investor relations people dating back about a month or so, if you can find that video, let me know in the comments and I'll add a link to it. One of the comments that investor relations made is that the largest cost in terms of their enhanced oil recovery operations to extract and then inject CO2 is electricity. If they can actually convert, they being Oxy, the operation into something that's powered by natural gas, they can reduce the cost significantly. But of course, Occidental Low Carbon Ventures is a methodology that can also be sold to any driller right across the world. Vicki says we have about 4 billion barrels of resources available in conventional shale that we can exploit. So the massive recovery that we can get by just lowering the cost of our CO2 is in and of itself a reason to continue our low carbon venture strategy. All strength to Oxy. This is a green initiative which would make millennials and all the people who like the Green New Deal very happy, whilst at the same time making Occidental more efficient. It gives them an additional product and service to sell, and it generates significant potential future revenue. I got a message from Pekka. I'm going to try this one. Lehtikoski. I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. The nice thing about Pekka is always optimistic. Pekka writes, just to cheer up energy investors, I added some links to encouraging articles here. Of course, there's a disclaimer saying, hey, I have not vetted this particular author. So, we don't know about the credibility of the author. Neither have I, Pekka. I'm just reading it as good news. And we just need to make sure that we are educated in terms of the decisions that we make. So these articles that Pekka shared with us are both articles that you can actually find yourself, once again, quite easily. They are published, both of them, by HFIR Energy. So you could find them. The one says, rising Chinese oil consumption invalidates concerns about permanent demand issues from COVID-19. And the other article says, natural gas market is starting to look past the cash weakness and into the incoming deficit. China's implied oil, I'm reading down here at the bottom where it's really small, is coming in a bit higher year over year. Market participants are starting to overlook the near-term bearishness and onto the incoming supply-demand deficit. This is good news for energy investors. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's early yet, but let's see if we can get over this COVID thing first so we can get this sort of off the table in terms of being viewed as the biggest threat to humanity since the 1918 Spanish flu. The other good news article that I found that I thought I'll share with you is that India has emerged as very hungry for heavy oil meaning crude. OPEC forecasts that global demand will increase from about 100 million barrels per day to about 110 million barrels per day by 2045. That's a forecast. It might be exceeded. We don't know. Well, it depends on the growth that we can achieve, and it depends what other macro events happen in between, like wars and pandemics and things like that. The largest contributor to the demand growth is anticipated to be India. Of course, we already know that China is a mass consumer, but India is rapidly catching up. India currently gets most of its oil supply from Saudi Arabia and Iraq, and OPEC forecasts that India's demand will increase by 6.3 million barrels per day between 2020 and 2045, driven by an expanding middle class, high population growth rates, and stronger economic potential. This is all good news, not just for India with its expanding middle class and its stronger economic growth potential, but also to energy investors, which includes probably all the people who are still watching this video. This article came from the Canadian Energy Centre, just to identify the source, and this one is also good news. So on that note, I'm going to sign off as Mr. Oxy. This, by the way, is a little snapshot from the videos that I've posted on Occidental. It's almost anything Occidental that you can imagine is included in my video library today. So if you have any questions related to Occidental, its upcoming third quarter earnings, its previous second quarter earnings, there's a 10-minute SWOT up here, which is a quick, easy view that will tell you all about Occidental strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. There's a whole lot of stuff here. So I've spent hours and hours and hours putting information together, and what you guys can do for me is just subscribe. So if I find something new, I can share it with you. And on that happy note, it's all positive and it's all good. And by the way, at least Oxy popped over the $10 mark again this just earlier when I looked today. So at least it's on the up, and it's a little bit of positive and good news for today. So on that happy note, please hit the subscribe button. It's Rudy, or Mr. Oxy, signing off saying keep well and stay safe. Bye-bye.